I'll be talking about blacksmithing builds today, and there are just some stuff that I gotta mention at the beginning of the video. There are chapters under there, so feel free to skip ahead. First of all, this is the midnight beta. The early access is 2 weeks away, and I don't think anything will change drastically now that we are 2 weeks away, but if anything happens, I will update you guys. But just be warned, this is the beta and stuff might change. Let's get into the builds. I want to start the video with weaponsmithing because it's one of my favorites. Weapons are always in demand. And as a mastercrafter who have spec'd into weapons, your first priority is to get all of the recipes. Because if you don't have the recipes, you cannot skill up to 100. Therefore, the first thing you do is that you choose between hafted weapons or blades. Not sure why this is not bladed weapons, but this is hafted weapons. Anyways, yeah, choose one of them and spend 15 points in them to unlock all the recipes. Now you can craft blades at the lowest quality or at somewhere in the middle for skill ups. Now you can go back to weaponsmithing and you need to spend 15 points here. Now you can unlock hafted weapons, and just like the blades, you will spend 15 points here to unlock the recipes. As of right now, spending 45 points in this spec, you have access to all of the weapon recipes that doesn't require Artisan Moxie, or any raid drops, or any other recipe sources. Everything that you can earn from the weaponsmithing spec is now unlocked, and you can level easily to 100 when leveling your profession. The next priority is to be able to craft every single recipe at the highest quality without concentration or finishing reagents. Therefore, skill is the most important thing you require. And because of that, you need to max out the first weaponsmithing spec tree. So 15 more points here, and then you got a choice. You need to either choose blades or hafted weapons again. Whichever one of these you decide, you will be speccing into that one until you maximize everything there is. Personally, I like blades more, therefore I will choose blades. I will max the blades out because it is giving us skill, and we want to craft everything at the highest quality. The next thing you will do is to choose between short blades or long blades. We get short blades, max them out, and after spending 25 points here, I can now craft all of the short blades in the game at the highest quality without any requirements. I can craft all of the orders out there. Therefore, our main goal is to max one node out, then move to the other. And because of that, we first choose one, max that one out, then move to the other. And only when you have finished either blades or hafted weapons, you will move to the other category. Now we can move to the hafted weapons. First, we maximize hafted weapons because again, we need the skill. Then you choose between axes and polearms or maces. You will max axes and polearms with 25 knowledge points, and now you can craft everything, and then you will move to maces. At this point, you can craft every single weapon in the game without any unnecessary things if you have the highest profession equipment at the highest quality. And now it's time to optimize the build. Weaponsmiths rely on resourcefulness procs to get the most profits out of their crafts. Therefore, we are coming to the old ways tab, and unlocking this one will give you a choice between 4 subspecs. You need to choose resourceful smith here because it will give you way more resourcefulness as opposed to the main node. Therefore, we are maxing this one out first, and then moving back into the old ways and maxing the old ways out, because every single point spent here will also give us resourcefulness. This is the best way to optimize your weaponsmithing, and afterwards you can move to other builds. Now let's talk about armor smithing. Armor smithing is the same way as weapon smithing, therefore we're spending our points in a very weird way because our first priority is to unlock all of the recipes. Personally, I want to get the shields first, therefore when unlocking armor smithing, I go to the large plate armor. I will get the shields first, then spend 20 points in the large plate armor to unlock the other two recipes for legs and chest plates. When you have unlocked all of the recipes, you will move back to armor smithing. Spending 15 points here will give you a choice between two more subknots. I choose the articulating armor here because gauntlets, fan braces, and belts I believe are way more in demand than the other ones. Therefore, this one is the second. You will get fan braces first. Spend 20 points here to unlock the other two recipes here. And when you have unlocked everything here, that was not supposed to happen yet. When you have unlocked everything here, you will move back to armor smithing, spend 15 more points to max it out, and unlock the last subspec. Again, you will choose the boots, spend 20 more points, and now you have unlocked every single recipe. The goal now is to maximize our skill from a particular slot of armor to be able to craft that at the highest quality without unnecessary stuff when we get our highest profession tools, because we need skill, and when we have this skill maximized, you can craft it without any hassle. The choice of which slot to fill out first is entirely up to you. Again, I personally like shields. Therefore, I will max out large plate armor first to be able to use finishing reagents. Using finisher reagents, you will have an easier time crafting orders while leveling your build. Therefore, the priority is to get the finishing reagents first, then spend points into the specific slots, and only when you have maxed out one slot, move to the other one. The second choice for me personally is always van braces. Fill out the middle spec first to get the finishing reagents, then max out the specific slot. After van braces, I go for belts because first I have maxed out here, I don't need to spend 10 more points, so I will get the belts here first. And afterwards I will max out the middle one here, sculpted armor, to get the finishing reagents, then I will opt in for boots. These 4 slots does not interfere with tier pieces, therefore I think that these are the most likely to sell more or be in demand. Afterwards you can choose either one of these and max everyone out one by one. That is up to you, but just max every one of these out before optimizing your build. Now that you have maxed out the armor smithing and you can craft every single armor slot at the highest quality with the highest profession equipment, of course, you need to optimize your builds. Again, just like weapon smithing, we will go to the old ways, choose resourceful smith, max resourceful smith first, then go back to the old ways and max the old ways because that's where the most resourcefulness is at. Spending 20 points on resourceful smith and the old ways will net you the highest resourcefulness available, and then you can move on to another build. Next build I want to discuss is the tool maker. You will come to the craftsmithing tab and you will max out the main node because it will give you skill, and you want the highest skill possible to craft all of those high quality tools and accessories at the maximum quality without concentration. Therefore, first 30 points into craftsmithing, then you have a choice between trade tools and trade accessories. I personally believe that everyone will craft their tools first, therefore it's best to choose the tools first, max this one out, and be done with it. Now you can craft the highest quality of tools in the market. Then you will move to accessories, you will max out the accessories, and now you have the necessary skill to craft all of the profession equipment at the highest quality if you do have your profession equipment at the highest tier. You can move on to the old ways now to optimize this build, and get a lot of resourcefulness whenever you're crafting tools or accessories. And again, a reminder that resourceful smith will give you way more resourcefulness as opposed to the resourcefulness that you will get from the old ways. Therefore, first resourceful smith, then the old ways. You will max out the old ways and the build will be complete. And now to talk about the Master of Alloys. You will come to the Old Ways tab, and remember that unlocking the Old Ways tab will give you a choice between 4 nodes. You need to spec into alloys first, so 20 points into alloys, because the alloys subnode will give you skill whenever you're crafting alloys. Then you will go back to the Old Ways and spend 10 more points here to unlock the multi-craft. The alloy makers love multi-craft. That's the best stat for you guys to make a lot of profits. You will max out the prolific worker here to get a lot of multi-craft. Then you will go back to the old ways, spend 10 more points and get the resourceful smith, because the more resourcefulness procs you get, the more products you can make, therefore more profits. You will max out the resourceful smith, and only after you have maxed out all of these 3, you will go back to the old ways and spend all of your points in the old ways to be able to get the most out of the alloys. Blacksmiths had something very weird happen to them in the Midnight expansion, and that is the fact that weapon stones are now a part of weaponsmithing and tool stones are now a part of craftsmithing. Therefore, I had no idea if I was supposed to add them in the toolmaker build or the weapon maker build. Because personally, I believe if you're going for a mastercraft vibe, you don't want to interact with the auction house and the reagents and the mass crafting, right? Therefore, I made a separate part for these 2 nodes. Let's get into them. Again, do remember that if you are interested in the mass crafting sessions and the auction house stuff, this will pair very well with the weaponsmithing and the toolmaker builds. Therefore, it's up to you, but I decided that it's better to have a separate segment for them. First thing you want to do as a weaponsmith, not a weaponsmith, a weapon stones crafter, you will need to unlock the weapon stones node. You will learn to create the refulgent whetstone and the refulgent weight stone. Max this one out, it's just 25 points. And you're doing this first because you will get the use of finishing reagents on them when you spend 15 points here, and more skill when crafting them right here. Then you will swap back to weaponsmithing if you have not already maxed out the weaponsmithing build. So if you're pairing them with each other, you should be good because you already have the resourcefulness and you already have everything that you need. And now you will go to the old ways to get the most out of the multicraft first. And then spend 10 points right here to get all of the resourcefulness, and spend your excess points in the old ways because it provides both multicraft and resourcefulness. So it is quite great. This will be your build as a separate weapon stones crafter. If you haven't done anything else with that blacksmith, if you're doing this on your alt, or if you just want to specifically create weapon stones and weight stones, this will be your build. Let's move to the tool stones now. Just like the weapon stones, you need to spend 10 points here to unlock the first subspec tool stones, then spend 25 points here to get the most out of the tool stones. Then and only then, when you have maxed out the tool stones, you will return to the craftsmithing and max this one out. The same way you optimize this build is just the same as the weapon stones. So first you will spend points in the multicraft because you can unlock it. Then you will go back to the old ways, get the resourceful smith, complete this one out and move back to the old ways and max that one out, because multicraft and resourcefulness is quite a lot. And since the server is shutting down and it's going off for a few hours, I will talk about the concentration builds another day. Therefore, we'll see you shortly in the second bit of the video. Hey there again. So the concentration builds. First of all, the alt army options for blacksmiths are quite limited, but they are great, and that means it's way simpler and way more straightforward, so they are awesome. The first thing you need to know is that you will get the razor stones from the trainer, and you will get all of the alloys from the trainer. Therefore, no recipe requirements for these four, and the only two recipes that require you to unlock them are the refulgent weight stone and the refulgent whetstone, which is simply acquired by just unlocking weaponsmithing and choosing to go to the weapon stones subspec. You don't need to spend any knowledge points here or here. You can spend knowledge points to unlock the finishing reagent, which I will get to in a minute, but you don't need any knowledge points to unlock the recipes. The most important thing for you to max out first is the second nature in the old ways, because it will give you a lot of ingenuity, and this is a concentration build after all, so we need all of the ingenuity that we can get. Therefore, 20 points in the second nature. Now that that is done, you can go to the old ways and get 10 more points here to unlock multicraft. You max out multicraft, and at this point it will wholly depend on how much you play that alt, because this build right here requires 50 knowledge points. If you do have excess knowledge points, I strongly recommend you spend 10 more points here to get the resourceful smith and unlock all of those resourcefulness bonuses. Then you can go back to the old ways and spend 20 more points to max everything out. This will be your build, 100 points, so only 100 knowledge points to get the most out of the concentration and the resourcefulness and the multicraft. And if you do end up having excess knowledge points, I strongly recommend you spend it in the weapon stones tab. 15 here for you to be able to use finishing reagents and therefore getting the most out of your concentration. And unlocking the finishing reagents here first, which will require a bit more knowledge points to craft the tool stones with the finishing reagents. This will be your entirety of the build if you happen to get a lot of knowledge points. Now, of course, you can spend even more knowledge points in the skill trees. The less skill a recipe requires, the less concentration it will use. But since you aren't playing that alt a lot, this is way above that alt's pay grade, believe me. This is a lot. 100 here, 15 here, and 10 here. This is a lot, but I wanted you to know everything so you can plan out your alt army builds. And that was it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, do leave a like or a comment down below. I will see you in another one. Bye bye.